Hey, what's up, guys? This is Moogle Lord here, and today I want to talk about AAA gaming and the current state that it's in, because now we have journalists, outlets finally admitting the current situation of the state of AAA gaming as far as budgets are concerned, and how we have a lot of studios closing left and right. We have a ton of layoffs that's going on, and I pretty much wanted to give you my overall thoughts on why is this the case, and also go over what the article has stated and just give you my personal opinion on it. And I just think that this is relevant for what is going on and what we've been seeing over social media, what we've been seeing through, these outlets and what they've been talking about. And we've been seeing it firsthand through our experiences when it comes to these games. So before we even dive into the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. And of course, this is from IGN. Now, this article was back in November 14th, which was last month, but the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's still relevant even right now, because this is what we're seeing. It said that the blockbuster games bubble has burst, and I'm suspecting that by 2025, I think we're going to see either a lot more studios closing, or we're going to start seeing a lot of these a lot more layoffs that's going to be happening, and we're going to start seeing a lot of these companies starting to restructure and figure out how they will be able to have a much more efficient budget. We will probably start seeing smaller scale games, but more effective and more enjoyable games on top of that. But we also probably will start seeing a cultural shift as far as what's been going on here in the culture war as well. So we're going to dive right into it. So it says the video game industry is currently in the thralls of a paradox for players. It could be argued we're in the greatest time for gaming. Now, if you guys don't know and you haven't been coming to my streams, I do stream. Definitely need to check me out when I do stream. We have a good time. I always ask you guys just a ton of questions about gaming and everything. We just have a good time and we just chill. But I've also mentioned on my X page as well, I always ask you guys, or I ask you guys, every once in a while, do you think we're in the best generation of gaming right now? And there's quite a few of you guys that say, yeah, we in the best generation of gaming. And the reason why you came to this conclusion and said why we in the best generation of gaming is for the simple fact is that we have access because of social media, because of these streaming platforms and all these other platforms. We have access to even a lot of older games. And that's the good thing about it. You have a lot more choices in the games that you play. Now, if you're only looking at the AAA space, then it looked like doom and gloom. But a lot of you guys had disagreed that no, this is the best time of gaming because the access to classic games, the access, to indie games and the indie space and everything like that. And then you have stuff like Fightcade and all different types of ways you're able to access games. Now you're finally able to enjoy it in that sense. So for you guys are saying that no, this is the best time for gaming at this point because of the selection that you have. But let's move forward. So there's an incredible breadth of choice across consoles, which you just said, handhelds and PCs, made ever more accessible through gaming subscription services like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. But for an industry perspective, things could not be more dire. More and more studios seem to be closing down. Original IPs are being scrapped mid-development, and vast legions of game developers, programmers, artists, and even animators have been cut loose. To put it quite simply, the AAA video game budget has finally burst. And yes, we're seeing it. We've been talking about it since for the past decade. We said it's going to get to this point, but we've seen it in 2023, but we definitely seen it more and more. And we've seen it especially from the title Concord itself, which we'll talk about later. So it said across the past 2 years, over 23,000 jobs in the video game industry were lost, with a staggering 6,000 in January 2024 alone. Over 30 video game development studios have ceased operations, including Arcane Austin, Volition, and most recently Firewalk Studios. What's worse, this trend only shows signs of continuing rather than diminishing. How did we get here? Some analysis have concluded that these closures and redundancies are a necessary remedy to companies having overextended themselves to response to inflated demand in the market during COVID-19 and the pandemic. While that's undeniably a factor, I believe the truth lies in long gestation and issues with the AAA project bubble. Now, first of all, we want to also say this: we can't just blame it on COVID. We talked about this before and before again, and now I know there's pretty much that this article's gonna probably go into the budgets, but you also gotta also understand too is what these game developers have been doing. When we talk about these consultant firms, when you talk about the culture war aspect, with a lot of these artists or a lot of these developers going on social media, arguing with gamers, telling gamers that they don't like the game, don't buy the game, talking down to the player base, and then of course we also gotta say that the journalists like IGN also plays a factors in this by also setting up hit pieces against games like Myth Wukong and a lot of other games that these articles have stood by and either attacked or stood by and actually defended when these games were actually horribly worse. So a lot of these media outlets also played in the demise for a lot of these game studios as well. But we're going to move on. Just 5 years ago, AAA projects average budget ranged from 50 to 150 million. Today, the minimum average budget is 200 million. Call of Duty's new benchmark is $300 million, with Activision admitting in the Competition and the Market Authority report on AAA development that it now takes the effort of 1.5 studios just to complete an annual Call of Duty title. So despite Call of Duty making a shit ton of money, man, you still gotta think about the budget to develop the game, and then they have to double that budget for promotion and marketing, which we talked about in the last video regarding Capcom and their long-term plan and how they explained how budgeting works when it comes to video game projects. Especially Harada from Bandai Namco himself explained how budgeting works. You don't just have the budget of the game, but you gotta double the budget when it comes to marketing, advertising, and promoting said game. So let's move on. So it says that it's far from just Call of Duty facing balloon costs. In the same CMA report, an anonymous publisher admits that development costs for one of its franchises reached $660 million, with $550 million of marketing costs on top. That is a game $1.2 billion game. That is crazy. I'm gonna repeat that. With $550 million of marketing costs on top, that is a $1.2 billion game. Think about that. So I just got finished saying that the cost of the game alone, and then you add on top of that the marketing and stuff. So this anonymous publisher said that $660 million on top of $550 million, that makes it a $1.2 billion game. Think about that for a second. So to put into perspective, Minecraft, the world best-selling video game of all time, has of last year only achieved $3 billion. It took 12 years to reach that figure, having launched in 2011. And that's Minecraft. So the realities of these budgets mean entire publishing houses are massively overstretched and are now desperately facing the consequences. If their developers' huge projects don't make the money immediately, they must die, which we talked about this before with Capcom. Capcom is no longer going for the immediate. They're going for the long term, because now you can't expect the immediate sales anymore. You have to expect the long term. And if you can't, as a developer, if you can't bring in even in the long term, your project is a failure, and that will also equal a potential collapse of your game studio, or close down of your game studio, or a risk of acquisition. So let's continue. So it says Sega sci-fi shooter Super Game Hyenas was in development at Creative Assembly for 7 years, and just as it was publicly playable for the first time via alpha testing, it was canceled. The reason? Sega preemptively concluded Hyenas couldn't make its money back. Of course, and as I said before, why couldn't it make its money back? Why? In order for the game to be attractive to even get people to want to play the game is already being scrutinized by content creators like myself, where we talked about, look at the like the horrendous character designs, and you can tell that it had DEI, it had all the woke elements in it. And then on top of that, we cannot forget the game itself. Is the game good? Does the game look good? Does it feel good? Does it play good? Does it bring players in? So you have to understand that even though a game can be woke or whatever, if the game is already bad, wokeness makes a game even worse. But if you can tell by Hyenas, from the alpha test, they were already telling you that the game was bad. So they already knew out the gate that, okay, we spent 7 years, the alpha test is bad. You look at the public, you look at what content creators are saying, you look at what social media is saying, they're calling out this game as well. We're not going to even take the chance to push forward with this project. It's going to fail upon release. So Sega played smart, and this is more so like Sega of America's side of things. They pretty much just said, you know what, just halt. Let's just stop it. So, it says, Blizzard's survival project, Odyssey, had a similar trajectory. Odyssey would have been the studio's first new IP in 8 years. And, given the market's love for games like Minecraft and Rust, such a gaming titan should have undoubtedly made waves with this project. When Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, the project was swiftly killed, with little reason publicly given beyond inconveniences in switching engines to increase player counts on the servers. And you know what Microsoft, these dudes, they come in and they buy stuff, they buy up these studios anyway and cancel it. But they're looking at the forecast, they're looking at all these different things, and they're looking at the cost. Like, all right, you guys, we bought you guys. We see the cost of this. It's already costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Now we talking about trying to switch it on a new engine, which is going to cost hundreds of millions more extra dollars. So they're looking like, you know what? It's not even worth it. Let's just cut it all together. So it said the current AAA publishing cool reflects a deep-rooted fear to engage with anything new and original. And this is what I want to talk about. This is, I can almost guarantee that they're going to make an excuse that the reason why that they're scared to try something new and original is because fans are going to automatically bash it and hate it and disregard why fans are reacting and responding to the way that they're responding when it comes to these new IPs. So we're going to get into this right now. So I can almost see it because I already see the picture of Concord. So these examples of the current AAA publishing cool reflect a deep-rooted fear to engage with anything new and original, with publishers perhaps more risk-averse than ever to stray out of their established IP safety bars. But even well-known IP that could be worth millions in sales and revenue is being left to rot. Despite owning Infamous, Jak and Daxter, Killzone, Resistance, and Sly Cooper, to name a few entries to the PlayStation sprawling dormant library, Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki recently claimed that the company lacks enough original IP to consolidate itself as a true gaming powerhouse. And the thing is, the fact is that they don't lack enough original IP. It's not the fact that they lack it, it's that they don't want to risk trying out to bring out these new IPs. But as I said before, when it comes to game development, man, yes, they can have all these IPs, but are these developers up to the task? Will these developers make a product that's worth playing? And will they allow these consulting agencies, will they allow this woke ideology and narrative come into play to also tamper and spoil a lot of these returning or old IPs that fans really, really have grown fond of, throughout their years, So let's continue. It says, what Totoki may mean is that Sony's older catalog of library IP does not fit the mold of what every publisher has been mindlessly chasing for the better part of the decade. The next big live service money printer. It's difficult to imagine much fanfare for a Sly Cooper reboot where Bentley and Murray are purchased to play. Grand Heist or season pass bonuses and worlds are delivered half-baked instead of fully formed. And you see how it's crazy? Now you have IGN coming in, admitting like the faults of these companies and what they're doing. And that's the thing. Sony they want to have live services. It's not the fact that these games won't sell well. It's the fact that how can they monetize these games for years on top of years on top of years, because of these budgets and everything, they can't just put out a game that's just one and done and that's it. So now what they're doing is, if they're going to make a new game or revive an IP, they want to try to figure out how can we implement this game in the sense that it has a season pass or it has DLC that can last for the next couple of years, to have these games last for this long, so we can constantly keep making money, because they tried to make a return on their investment. And because of these budgets, live service games has become more and more prominent. But let us continue. So it says that new video games don't just have to compete with new rivals, but somehow find a space in an increasingly crowded market dominated by decade-old titles like Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto Online games, which will continue to hold higher player counts than many of the top sold games of the last few years. And we talked about this in an old video where we talked about how gamers are more so playing older games than they're playing newer games. And you have to understand, live service games requires a shit ton of your time. It does. It requires your time, and if you're invested in it, 9 times out of 10, you're going to spend money on it. So if you're going to have a market to where you have all of these different live services games, players don't have that money. They don't have that time to invest in every last live service games. This is why this bubble of AAA gaming is definitely has burst or going to burst. You know what I'm saying? It's because, for the simple fact is, they're trying to recoup the cost of these balloon and inflated costs of developing these games and marketing these games, and they're trying to offset the balance by having these games live services. The recent fate of Concord's Firewalk Studios serves as a microcosm for the increasingly bleak outlook for the next years in video game development. Concord was Firewalk's first game, its baby in many years, and 8-year development bolstered by a Sony acquisition with a reported cash injection of $200 million plus. And I think we got from Colin Morarity, he mentioned that the game cost him, almost 400 million, or was it 900 million all together when Sony bought them, when they bought the studio and everything. I think it cost them nearly almost $1 billion or something like that. I could be wrong. I have it in the link. I have it on one of the videos where I actually had where he cited it, or I may play the clip when this video uploads or whatever. But that was a lot of money. So right after that happened, PlayStation reportedly believed in that there was pretty much going to be the next Star Wars X franchise on its hands. I don't understand how they can believe that bullshit, especially after the way the character designs are. It looks uninspiring. It looks dull, and a lot of people criticize it. So I don't understand how they thought that. So it says right after that, it says Sony with Firewalk closed for business shortly after. Concord's downfall happened faster than any other failed game of the live service era. It did, and it's definitely be marked in gaming history that this was the biggest failure, the biggest Sony L of all time, and especially when it comes to live service games. Just a decade earlier, though, a similar disaster was plaguing Blizzard Diablo 3. The coupling Error 37 message made the game unplayable, and fans worldwide decried the absolute failure to launch. Soon after, the game's real money auction house left players with a foul taste in their mouth, and Diablo 3 reputation was roasting in the fires. But rather than abandoning it, Blizzard not only repaired the game and removed the auction house, but fundamentally upgraded and evolved Diablo to 32.0 with its Reaper of Souls expansion, finally submitting this comeback as a brilliant game. And of course, a similar story with CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk 2077 to win fans back. And see, this is another perfect example. If developers would listen to fans instead of fighting against fans, then you're always going to have fans rallying behind a project, rallying behind the game, and they're willing to spend that money and invest in that game. If the alleged $200 million plus budget had been lowered, the project direction refocused as a spark for a new universe rather than a big bang. It doesn't seem hard to believe that Concord may have found its audience with some Blizzard or CD Projekt Red like sharpening from Sony. Many projects akin to Concord could be the medium-sized success they deserve to be. If not for the financial corners these publishers have found themselves backed into. And that's the thing I want to say. They could have definitely fixed Concord if they could have did a CD Projekt Red. What they could have did was Instead of, like I said, going out on a big bang with that big ass budget and stuff, they could have went in, shut the game down, did a Final Fantasy VII Yoshi P, A Realm Reborn, went in with that game, changed all the character designs, and then go back in, fix the gameplay mechanics, make the world stand out even more, and take some lessons from what Marvel Rivals did and also what Overwatch did, and then go back into the drawing board, and then maybe the fans would have looked at it, and then make it free to play on top of that, and then it would have worked, and appeal to the fans, appeal to them, and it would have worked. So it says, if everything is bigger and bolder, who possibly has the time to play more than 1 or 2 games each year? Yes. Before we even get into that, I'm not only a full-time single father, but I'm also a comic book writer who's launching a comic book company in January of next year. You could be able to pre-order my comic book. Just want to plug that in there. And then on top of that, I'm a 3D hentai animator. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a streamer. I also run a t-shirt business with my brothers, where we sell our own custom products, and we also sell merchandise, and we also create brands for other content creators and everything like that. My plate is already full as it is, and every time we look at these new games, especially with these open world games that's just littered with a bunch of like fetch quests and stuff like that, and they expect you to spend hundreds of hours into it. I don't have time for that. Smaller games, for me, it's much more attractive. Smaller games that's actually good story, good gameplay, and respects my time, I will play those type of games, you know. But let's continue. Not that such financial corners are anything publishers should always attempt to navigate. Gamers are beginning to wane interest in these monolithic projects. You need only look at the top rated games of 2024 list, whereas 2023 awards lists were littered with AAA titles from 500 strong studios. 2024's show a revitalized hunger for a smaller, more independent spirit. Arcade machine throwbacks, UFO 50, Metroidvania-esque Animal Well, Poker Bolotro, and text-based pixel art adventures, The Crimson Diamond, are just some of the games you'll be seeing appearing again and again on these lists. Despite their numerous differences, they share a commonality: a smaller, more refined experience that recalls earlier eras of gaming, where marriages of mechanics and storytelling were key through technological craftiness rather than literal country-sized game worlds. Yes, thank you. I want to say this to a lot of you guys. To a lot of you guys who are independent, who are becoming independent developers, whether you're going into the gaming space, the comic space, movie space, now is the time. Now is the time to be independent, because gamers or people within the entertainment space, they're hungry. They're dying to go back to something that's normal. They're dying to go back to something that were actually good. And here it is. You have an article like IGN that shields a lot of these corporations, especially these woke corporations, and protect companies like Sweet Baby Inc. and stuff like that. Here it is. You even got them saying that these games provide a marriage between gameplay mechanics, storytelling, things that people actually give a fuck about. This is what gamers want. And the thing is, it doesn't matter how beautiful the game look and how expansive these worlds are. It's the fact is that these games respect the gamer's time. That's what gamers want. They want to be respected. They want their money's worth. They don't want bloated fetch quests in these massive open worlds and a shit ton of microtransactions and monetization schemes, and you're offering little to nothing as far as the gaming experience is concerned. This is what we need. This is the answer to this. We don't need these massive budgets at all. Just make it simple. Respect the gamer's time. That's all. But let's move on. But it says that's not to undercut the difficulty in getting those independent titles made. UFO's 50th Mossmouth LLC team consisted of 6 developers working over many years, while both Animal Well and The Crimson Diamond share similar stories of being crafted by solo developers Billy Basso and Julia Minamata. respectively over several years. Even a smash hit like Lethal Company started life as a one-man band developer, Zekers, learning to develop games on Roblox before expanding his knowledge. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. It is the time right now. You're tired of the current state of gaming? Do something about it. Or invest, support independent developers. Right now is the best time to be independent. Just like the music industry. There's no reason for you to go out and try as a music artist to try to go out to a major record label to be a slave to a music contract when you got Spotify, SoundCloud, you got social media, you have all these platforms to now you can be your own artist, your own independent artist with your own fan base that you can leverage to these corporations and everything to make the deal that you want, or the partnerships that you want. You get what I'm saying? So this is the time. This is the time for you guys to actually go out as an independent, or if you're looking to be independent, or you're looking for a gaming experience that's not AAA, but give you that gaming experience that respects your time. Now is the time to actually look at these independent developers. And here on this channel, I've been covering quite a few independent projects, and you can go definitely check it out. I'll actually make a playlist at some point, or probably after this video, so you can check out some of the projects that I've been highlighting. And I really appreciate a lot of the independent developers who has actually been contacting me and emailing me to actually start giving their games a try and stuff, and try to expose it to a lot of you guys and stuff. And I really appreciate that. But yes, this is what we're experiencing right now. The gaming industry, the AAA space, is either on the crux of about to implode and we about to experience a reset, or it has already burst. And then starting in 2025, we may see more and more studios close down because of these budgets. Something has to give, something has to stop, and we don't need a massive budget of to create these AAA games. No, just create a game that respects the player time. Also, get away from these stupid ass consulting firms and just go back to what you normally was doing as developers of when I was growing up, by creating a kick-ass experience that's not trying to preach to you, not trying to virtue signal and everything like that. And also hire the best people for the job. Hire them based on merit rather than skin color and sexual preference and identity and everything like that. Hire the best for the job, and you respect the player's time. You're always going to get the best outcome. So that pretty much wraps up this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment sections below. What do you think about all of this when it comes to the way or the current state that we're experiencing when it comes to AAA gaming? Do you think we're on the brink of a total collapse or a reset, or are we in it right now? And we're going to start seeing more and more studios close. I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And what advice would you give AAA studios that you love the most? What advice would you give them in order for them to earn your money? So, so definitely let me know. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is Mugen Lord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.